Hi students, welcome to Global Online Kannada. In this session, we are going to see KSOU PhD Common Entrance Tests, Research Methodology MCQs. And in today's session, we are going to see what are probability and non-probability sampling methods in detail by using MCQs. So both of these are the sampling techniques, and under probability sampling method there will be random selection of the sample, and in non probability sampling technique there will be non random selection of the sample. And that's why students, I have covered all the concepts relevant to these sampling methods, and there are again subtypes under these sampling methods. So each year you will be asking definitely 4 to 5 MCQs on this topic in PhD Common Entrance Test, and that's why students, you need to watch this session until the end so that all of your concepts and doubts will get clear. Students, let us begin with this session now. So students, all of you know that Karnataka State Open University's PhD Common Entrance Test 2023 will be on 23rd July, right? And in this PhD Common Entrance Test, you will be asking 50% MCQs from research methodology and 50% MCQs from concerned subject. So to qualify this entrance test, all of the students need to score more marks in research methodology section and as well in the concerned paper subject. Okay, so students, to score more marks in research methodology, we, that is Global Online team, provides you research methodology complete course. By the use of this complete course, all the candidates can guaranteed qualify PhD Common Entrance Test. So in this course, we provide you full syllabus video lectures under which theory and MCQ lecture both are available. We provide you full syllabus notes and mock tests. We have 10 mock tests like this, and each mock test contains 40 MCQs, and that's why overall all the students can solve 400 MCQs. We provide you more than 1500 MCQs revision PDF. So by the use of this revision PDF, all the candidates can revise all the topics in this PDF only, and that's why they'll be getting 80% MCQs from this PDF only out of 100% MCQs in the research methodology paper of PhD Common Entrance Test. So all of these study material are available in both the languages, and those are Hindi and English both. So students, if you want to buy this complete course, then either you can download the Global Online app from the Play Store, for which I have given the link in the description box of this video, or else students can be contact me through the WhatsApp numbers which are I have given on this screen. So students, the course fees are only 699, and in these low fees we provide guaranteed selection to all the candidates, that they can guaranteed qualify the PhD Common Entrance Test and take the admission to the PhD at the university. So students, we have demo video lectures, we have demo mock tests, and you can give demo mock tests and watch video lectures, that to demo video lectures, free of cost on the Global Online app, and after that they can buy the complete course. Okay, so this research methodology complete course is nothing but the research methodology revision package for all the students, and after that obviously they can study very well research methodology subject by this research methodology complete course. Okay,
Question 1 is sampling is advantageous as it dash. So why students sampling is advantageous? Why we do the sampling in research? Okay, so because it saves time, because it helps in capital saving, because both 1 and 2, that is saves time and helps in capital saving or increases accuracies. Okay, so students, your correct answer is 3, that is both saves time and helps in capital saving. So first of all students, there is a target population and every researcher wants to study the target population, but it includes lot of participants, and that's why no one can study lot of participants in a minimum amount of time, and that's why we do the sampling, so that we can select samples from the target population which will be the representative of the target population, right? And basically sampling is advantageous because it saves our time, and as well it helps in capital saving, because sampling does not include that much amount of people, and that's why we don't need that much amount of funding for doing the data collection, and that's why it helps in capital saving as well. That's why your correct answer should be 3. Okay, next is which of the following are popular complex random sampling designs? So which of these are the popular complex random sampling designs. So random sampling designs are basically nothing but the probability sampling techniques. Okay, and under this sampling technique, a researcher actually randomly selects the participants from the target population. So let us see here different options: systematic sampling, then stratified sampling, then simple sampling, then cluster sampling, then basic sampling. So students, your correct answer over here should be 2, that is A, B and D. Okay, because A, B and D, these are the complex random sampling designs. Okay, complex means there is many steps and it is basically opposite than simple random sampling. So let me explain you why. So within the systematic sampling technique, there is a heterogeneous population or homogeneous population, and in this population what we do, we actually have a, for example, finite population. For example, I have 100 number of people in a population and I need to select the samples. So what I will do over here, I will divide these 100 number of people into equal intervals. For example, I will do 1 to 10 interval, then 11 to 20 interval. So like this I will do up to 100 number interval. Okay, then first of all I will select randomly any number from this 1 to 10. For example, if I select 7 number, then in every next interval I am going to select 7th number. So for example, between 11 to 20 I will select 17. Between 21 to 30 I am going to select 27. So firstly I am going to randomly select 7 number, then after that in each interval I am going to select the nth number. Okay, all of you getting? And this is called as a systematic sampling, but it is random sampling design because at the first time I am going to select the sample randomly over here. Okay, and that's why it is called as the complex random sampling design, because here we are going to do lots of procedures, and as well we are going to do the procedures by using randomly selecting the sample, and that's why this is complex random sampling design. Next is stratified sampling. Now stratified sampling actually is done when there is obviously the heterogeneous population, whenever population includes lots of characteristics of people. Okay, or people which have the lots of characteristics, I mean to say different characteristics. So for example, here I have heterogeneous population. So what I am going to do is I am going to divide this population into different subgroups. For example, S1 subgroup, S2, S3, like that, and I am going to select the samples randomly from each subgroup, and after that finally I will make a sample. Okay, this would be the stratified sampling technique. So here as well I am going to select the samples randomly, and that's why this is random sampling design. And over here as well I am going to use different kind of procedures. Okay, and that's why this is complex random sampling design. Okay, now next is cluster sampling. So within the cluster sampling, again there is a lots of amount of population, and basically it is heterogeneous population, and again here I am going to divide the whole population into different subgroups like S1, S2, S3, but over here I am going to select whole subgroup from these subgroups randomly. For example, I will select randomly S1 subgroup, I will select randomly S4 subgroup. Okay, and then finally I will make a sample. Okay, so this is called as the cluster sampling, and that's why this is as well the complex random sampling design. And within the simple sampling, there is only the way that we are only selecting the samples randomly from the whole population. This is the only one process or step we are going to do in simple random sampling technique, and that's why this is only the simple random sampling technique, not a complex random sampling technique. And that's why your correct answer should be 2 over here, that is A, B, D only, because over here systematic sampling stratified sampling and cluster sampling. All of these are the complex random sampling designs. Okay.
This we provide KSOU PhD Common Entrance Test 2023 paper to study material to the all the candidates so that they can score more marks in paper 2, that is in concerned subject. So in this we provide full syllabus notes and MCQs, and in the MCQ section we provide most expected and most repeated MCQs and as well PYQs. By the use of them all the candidates can guaranteed score more marks in paper 2, and after that they can qualify the PhD Common Entrance Test at KSOU. So the subjects that I have mentioned on this screen, so on all of these subjects we provide paper to study material. So if you want study material for any other subject, then you can ask me in the comment box. The fees for paper to study material are only 999, and in these low fees we provide guaranteed selection to all the candidates that they can guaranteed qualify PhD Common Entrance Test. So to join paper 1 and paper 2 courses, students can contact me through the WhatsApp numbers only that I have mentioned on the screen.
Next, random sampling is helpful as it is dash. So why random sampling design is helpful? Because it is reasonably accurate, because it is free from personal biases, because it is an economical method of data collection, because all of the above. So students, as I have told you earlier in the question 2, that within the random sampling technique we are going to select the samples randomly from the whole population, and that's why it is reasonably accurate, because we are going to select the samples randomly. So we don't know exactly whether we are going toward the specific characteristic or not. Basically here we can select all the kinds of people from the target population, okay, which include lots of characteristics, and that's why it is reasonably accurate. And as well here there is no any kind of biases that researcher can do, because here researcher don't know the identity of the participants, and that too researcher is selecting the samples randomly from the target population, right? And that's why it is bias free. So again, this is one of the advantages of it. And as well, this is the economical method of data collection, because here researcher can target the lots of number of population, and as well it saves the time, it saves the capital as well, okay. And that's why this is the economical method of data collection. So this is again the helpful thing of it, and that's why your correct answer should be 4, that is all of the above, okay. Next, that dash is a preferred sampling method for the population with finite size. So from these sampling techniques, which is the preferred sampling technique for the population with finite size? So whether it is systematic sampling, whether it is purposive sampling, whether it is cluster sampling, or whether it is area sampling. So as I have told you earlier in this video, that in the systematic sampling technique we know the size of the population. That means the size of the population is finite over here, and that's why we are able to make the intervals of the whole population like 1 to 10, 10 to 20, and that's why whenever the population size is finite, then our preferred sampling method is systematic sampling, okay, which is a random sampling technique. Now what is purposive sampling? So purposive sampling is the non-probability sampling technique, because here researcher don't use the random sampling method technique. So here researcher don't randomly select the participants from the target population. Here researcher have a specific kind of characteristic in mind, and based upon that characteristic only researcher selects the preferred participants, okay. And that's why here researcher don't understand exactly the population is finite or not. Actually, whether the population is finite or infinite, it does not matter in this case, okay, because researcher only want those participants who has the specific characteristics that researcher want in his or her study, okay. That's why this option gets eliminated. Now cluster sampling. So as I have told you earlier that within the cluster sampling the population is heterogeneous, and as well there is lots of number of people under the population. So maybe the population includes infinite number of people, and that's why this also gets eliminated. Area sampling is again the subtype of cluster sampling only. As I have told you earlier, within the cluster sampling we are going to divide the target population into subgroups like S1, S2, S3, and we are going to randomly select these subgroups. Okay, and here these subgroups are basically the areas, I mean to say geographical areas. For example, within India I want to do some study regarding geographical areas, so I will do the subgroups like Maharashtra will be my first subgroup, then Rajasthan will be second subgroup, like that. So I am going to make the subgroups based upon the state, and I am going to select the each and every subgroup randomly over here. Okay, and this is nothing but the area sampling. And here as well you can understand that we don't know the size of the population. Here the population size is infinite actually, okay, like in cluster sampling, and that's why this option gets eliminated. So your correct answer is systematic sampling. Next, which one is called non-probability sampling? So here they have given us different types of sampling techniques, and we need to identify the type of non-probability sampling technique. So whether it is quota sampling, or whether it is cluster sampling, whether it is systematic sampling, or whether it is stratified sampling. So students, now if you read these sampling techniques, then you will understand that cluster sampling is the random sampling, then systematic sampling is again random sampling, stratified is again random sampling. So all of these options get eliminated, and that's why your correct answer is quota sampling. So quota sampling is the non-probability sampling, because within the quota sampling researcher selects the participants who has the specific characteristics, and that's why here all of the samples selected has the specific common characteristics. Okay, we share basically the specific common characteristics only, and that's why this is the non-probability sampling technique. Next, which of the following sampling technique is appropriate to study the prevalence of AIDS amongst male and female in India in 1976, 1986, then 1996 and 2006? So which of this sampling technique would you use, okay, whenever you need to study the prevalence of AIDS against male and female candidates in India in the year 1976, 1986, 1996, 2006? So students, you will go for systematic sampling. So let me explain why. So within the systematic sampling we know the size of the population, right, which is finite. So now here researcher wants to understand the prevalence of AIDS, right, amongst male and female candidates in India, and as well here it has mentioned some years like 1976, 1986, 1996 and 2006. So each and every year India announces the population of the people in India in that year, right? So for example, researcher knows the population size of India in 1976 year, as well 1986 year, 1996 year and 2006 year. So what researcher will do now? Researcher over here now make a group of people, okay, and he will now categorize all the target population between different intervals. So he will first of all make the intervals of year 1976, then he will make the intervals of year 1986, of 1996 and of 2006 year. Then after that he will randomly choose the sample, okay, in the first interval. Then after that he will choose the samples every nth interval in the subsequent intervals, and finally he will make a proper sample, okay, finally, and then accordingly he will study by using this sample only. So why researcher will follow this sampling technique? Because from this sampling technique researcher can reach both the types of gender like male and female, and as well researcher can study each and every year, okay, like 76, 86, 96 and 2006, okay, and that's why he will be able to target each and every year and as well each and every gender, and that's why here the study will be more accurate, because here he is addressing most of the accurate sample, okay, and that's why he can use such sampling technique, and this sampling technique will saves the time of the researcher. So within the quota sampling, researcher actually uses the particular characteristic of people, and accordingly he select that kind of people who has that characteristic. But over here researcher don't know exactly who has AIDS and who has not. That's why this sampling technique won't be useful over here. Within cluster sampling technique, basically researcher what does he actually randomly select the subgroups from the target population, but over here the target population is not actually infinite, it is finite, and this technique as well won't be useful. Within the stratified random sampling, researcher makes the subgroups and randomly then select the samples, but actually this is the useful, but this is not preferred sampling technique, because systematic sampling technique will be more preferred than stratified random sampling. So this again gets eliminated. That's why your correct answer should be 3, which is systematic sampling. Okay, which one of the following principles is not applicable to sampling? Now here they have given certain principles of sampling techniques, and which is the principle which is not applicable to sampling technique. So whether it is sample units must be clearly defined, whether it is sampling units must be dependent on each other, whether it is same units of sample should be used throughout the study, whether it is sample units must be chosen in a systematic or objective manner. So your correct answer should be 2, because sample units must not be dependent on each other. When sample units are dependent on each other, then that sampling technique would be unethical, and as well it would be biased, okay, because the sample units are dependent on each other, okay, and that's why this is the principle which is not applicable to sampling. Sample units must be clearly defined. Yes, this is one of the principle which is applicable to sampling. As well, same units of sample should be used throughout the study. When we use different units, then obviously our results won't be accurate, right? So this is again the one of the principle which is applicable to sampling. Sample units must be chosen in a systematic and objective manner. So again this is one of the principle of sampling technique, because we need to actually do all the procedures in a systematic and objective manner. Okay, next, suppose you want to investigate the working efficiency of nationalized bank in India, which one of the following would you follow? Now a researcher, or for example I want to investigate the working efficiency of nationalized bank in India. So for that I need to collect the data, okay, and for that I need to select the samples. So for selecting the sample, which sampling technique I need to follow? Whether I need to follow area sampling, whether I need to follow quota sampling, or sequential sampling, or multi-stage sampling. So students, in such situations I will follow the multi-stage sampling. So let me explain why. So basically multi-stage sampling is a sampling technique which is the subtype of cluster sampling technique. So here actually the sampling selection or the selection of samples basically occurs based upon different stages, okay, multiple stages. So let me explain how. So now here I want to investigate the working efficiency of nationalized bank in India, right? And that's why I need to identify the nationalized banks in India. Okay, so for example SBI is one of the nationalized bank of India. Then again Baroda bank is one of the national bank of India. Okay, then Punjab National Bank is again one of the National Bank of India, right? And here India, okay, has lots of population, though I know that the population is finite, okay, but still actually here I need to investigate the working efficiency, right? So whether the population is finite or not won't actually matter over here. I need to know the working efficiency only. Okay, and within India there are lots of states, and in each state there are lots of districts, there are lots of towns, right? And I need to reach every area. So firstly what I will do, I will make the subgroup of India into different states. Okay, then within the different states I will make the subgroups of districts. Then within the districts I will make subgroups of towns or villages, and subsequently I will make the I will basically choose the nationalized bank, and after that then I will investigate the working efficiency of that specific nationalized bank. And that's why this technique would be more efficient, because by using this technique I can reach the each and every nationalized bank in India, so that I can investigate their working efficiency more accurately. Okay, that's why I will use this sampling technique, which is called as multi-stage. It is called as multi-stage because over here you can see I have selected the samples between the multiple stages. Like I have made the states, okay, groups, then I have made the groups of districts, then at the last I have made the groups of towns or villages. Okay, now I have explained you what is area sampling, I have explained you what is quota sampling. Now what is sequential sampling? As the name suggests over here, it is sequential. So basically it includes lot of sequences. Okay, for example, whenever researcher don't know exactly whether the particular sampling technique will be feasible or not, then in such kind of sampling techniques he will first of all use a minimum amount of participants in his or her sampling technique, and after that if he finds that that particular sampling technique is feasible, or whether he is getting a accurate kind of data, then after that again he will select the samples. So here researcher basically sequentially selecting the samples. All of you getting? And that's why here your correct answer should be 4, that is multi-stage sampling technique. When a research problem is related to heterogeneous population, the most suitable sampling method is, now here when there is a heterogeneous population, then what type of sampling method a researcher should follow, whether it is lottery method, whether it is cluster sampling, or whether it is stratified sampling or convenient sampling. Now all of you understood that in such kind of situation you need to follow stratified sampling technique, because there is a heterogeneous population which includes the people who has different characteristics, and that's why over here we need to make the subgroups of this heterogeneous population, and I am going to select the samples randomly from each subgroup. All of you getting? Okay, and that's why whenever there is a heterogeneous population, then stratified sampling technique will be more feasible. Okay, what is lottery method? So now lottery method is the random sampling technique, and in such sampling method we are going to select the numbers randomly, and here we are going to assign each number to the subject. All of you getting? Or you are going to assign each number to the each participant. Okay, and accordingly I am going to select such numbers randomly, and that's why this is the random sampling technique. Then all of you understood now cluster sampling. Then convenient sampling technique is again the non-probability sampling technique, and here a researcher actually based upon his or her convenience select the samples. For example, a researcher is in a university, okay, on a Tuesday, then he will select the participants who are there in the college on that day only. Okay, then he won't do any other practices over there. Okay, so based upon his or her convenience, researchers select the samples, and that's why it is called as the convenient sampling technique. Okay. Now next, which of the following sampling methods is based on probability? Now here they have asked you exactly which is the sampling technique from these sampling techniques is the probability sampling technique. So whether it is quota sampling, whether it is stratified sampling, whether it is judgment sampling, or whether it is convenience sampling. Okay, so now all of you understood that there is only one sampling technique, which is stratified sampling technique. It is the probability sampling technique. Okay, and all others are non-probability sampling technique. So now all of you understood what is quota sampling, what is convenience sampling. So now let us see what is judgment sampling. So judgment sampling technique is also called as the purposive sampling technique. So here researcher has a specific purpose towards the participant, and that's why he purposively selects that participant only. Okay, in some cases actually researcher wants the more secure or sensitive information, and that's why researcher purposively wants those participants only who will be provide that sensitive information to the researcher, right? And that's why it is called as the judgment or purposive sampling technique, which is again the non-probability sampling technique, and that's why here your correct answer should be 2. So students, thank you for watching this session. I hope all of you understood everything that I have explained to you, but still if you have any doubts you can ask me in the comment box of this video. Okay.